Welcome back, family. To everyone already subscribed to Exposed Cheaters by NDU Tale, thank you. Your time, your trust, and your comments keep this community alive. As you listen, share your thoughts, feelings, and lessons below, so we can learn together. Settle in. The truth and the twist are coming. Let's get into it. My wife forced me out of our Atlanta home with a smile, changed the locks, and told me to sleep wherever my pride fit. She called it growth. She called the open marriage freedom, then said my presence made her embarrassed in front of her new man. Her sister filmed me carrying bags to the curb. Her friends laughed. She kept the house, the dog, and the narrative. I kept a bruised rib from the door and a final warning text. Don't come back. No apology followed. No mercy arrived. That was the cruelest thing she ever did to me. If you've ever been pushed out of your own life by someone you trusted, pause for a second. Subscribe now, because this story isn't about revenge. It's about what happens after they think they've broken you. Here's how it happened. We met in college in Tallahassee, married young, and built a steady life in Georgia brick by brick. I worked logistics, long hours, clean hands, quiet ambition. She chased sparkle, podcasts, brunch wisdom, and friends who measured love by clout. When her promotion stalled, resentment bloomed. She said monogamy felt small. She wanted exploration, honesty, and options. I said no, then yes, scared of losing her. That compromise became permission. The rules changed weekly. Boundaries dissolved. Respect followed them out the door. I ignored warning signs because love made me patient and fear made me quiet. The first man came from her gym in Buckhead, a banker with loud suits and louder opinions. She introduced him like a colleague, then stayed out all night. I waited, lied to her at church, and swallowed questions. Soon there were more men, always better, richer, shinier. She kept a spreadsheet of rules only I followed. Meanwhile, she mocked my salary and my car. Her mother told me to be supportive or leave. My friends faded, tired of hearing excuses. Loneliness became my roommate, patient, persistent, and unforgiving. I stopped recognizing myself in mirrors or conversations at all times anymore. She met the CEO at a tech mixer downtown, Oakland-born, Atlanta-based, money speaking before he did. Suddenly, the open marriage had a favorite. She compared calendars, bodies, and futures. I was told to be flexible while she became rigid. When I protested, she accused me of insecurity. The CEO took her to Napa, Aspen, and quiet rooms with views. I stayed home, cooking dinners she didn't eat. Bills landed on my desk. She stopped touching me entirely. At night, the house felt rented, temporary, already gone. I slept lightly, afraid of keys turning, afraid of dawn arriving early every single morning. Then came the ultimatum. She said the CEO wanted seriousness and stability. I was baggage, history, a phase she outgrew. She offered counseling only if I agreed to leave temporarily. When I refused, she called the police for a civil standby and watched me pack. No tears, no shaking hands. Her sister recorded again. I signed nothing. I took nothing but clothes. The house echoed as I crossed the threshold. Outside, neighbor pretended not to see. Inside, she exhaled relief, finally unburdened. I learned how disposable commitment sounds when love leaves a room completely and silence answers back to you. I slept in my car near Decatur for weeks, showering at a 24-hour gym. Work suffered. My manager noticed the weight loss and the hollow stare. I ate once a day, saved receipts, and counted miles like prayers. She blocked me everywhere. Mutual friends chose brunch invitations over truth. Her social media bloomed with sunsets and captions about courage. Mine went dark. Each night, I rehearsed apologies I'd never send. Shame wrapped me tightly, convincing me this exile was earned, deserved, permanent. I questioned my worth daily and avoided mirrors, voices, and memories that still hurt deeply inside my chest. The CEO faded quietly from her feed months later, replaced by vague quotes and forced smiles. I heard through whispers he'd moved on, efficient as a merger. She never reached out. Instead, a letter arrived demanding I sign papers, relinquishing claims. No greeting. No thanks. Just instructions. I didn't respond. I focused on surviving. I found a cheaper apartment in Prince George's County, borrowed furniture, and rebuilt routines. Progress felt small, invisible, but it held. Each paycheck repaired something inside me, slowly, steadily, without witnesses. I learned peace doesn't announce itself or ask permission to stay when earned honestly alone. I worked 2 jobs, kept my head down, and paid debts she left behind. Credit improved. Sleep returned. My body healed. I stopped checking her page. Therapy helped me name the abuse without softening it. Friends reappeared quietly, offering couches and meals without questions. I bought secondhand books and read at night. Confidence came back, not loud, just present. I learned boundaries late, but thoroughly. Love, I realized, should not require self-erasure. That lesson stuck, firm as bone. I promised myself never to beg for belonging again, anywhere, ever, even when loneliness tries rewriting history at night or daylight hours. Success came quietly. A promotion, then another. I saved aggressively and bought a modest townhouse. No announcement, no applause, just keys in my palm and relief in my chest. I hosted no housewarming. I planted herbs on the balcony. Peace became normal. One afternoon, in a grocery store off Route 1, I saw her. Time had taken its interest. She smiled, unsure. I nodded, paid, and left. Nothing needed saying. Closure arrived without conversation, clean and complete. She searched my face for regret and found none waiting. I carried my bags lightly and stepped forward alone, without bitterness or noise. Later, I learned her house had gone into foreclosure after the lifestyle collapsed. The CEO never called. She blamed everyone but herself. No remorse reached me. I didn't celebrate. I just kept building. My life expanded inward, steady and private. Pain didn't disappear. It softened into wisdom. I stopped measuring justice by spectacle. Some endings don't clap. They simply release you. And that freedom, earned slowly, proved stronger than anything she thought she'd upgraded into. I remained anonymous, healed and whole, accountable only to my future, where peace lives quietly without witnesses or permission to stay forever in my life. I rebuilt mornings first, because nights were still dangerous to my thoughts. I woke before sunrise in Hyattsville, ran short miles, and brewed cheap coffee. Routine stitched me together. At work, I volunteered for projects nobody wanted, learning systems others ignored. My reputation shifted quietly. People trusted me. I trusted myself again. I stopped explaining my past. When coworkers asked about family, I said I was focused. That truth felt strong. The old shame loosened. Progress didn't feel triumphant. It felt stable, dependable, and earned, like a floor that finally stopped shaking beneath my feet every day without witnesses present. She resurfaced through paperwork, not words. A process server found me at lunch, handing documents with practice indifference. She wanted the divorce finalized fast, assets waived, timelines compressed. Her tone on email was sharp, efficient, untouched by history. I complied strategically, protecting credit, saving records, and staying calm. The law moved slowly, predictably. I learned patience there. Mediation passed without eye contact. She smirked when numbers favored her. I didn't react. I had learned that winning quietly meant refusing bait, choosing long horizons over short satisfaction, and trusting time to expose imbalance without noise, witnesses, speeches, celebrations, posts, applause, validation, ever. Friends returned cautiously, as if I might break. They invited me to cookouts in Silver Spring and walks along the Anacostia. Conversation avoided her name. I appreciated that mercy. I listened more than I spoke, learning who stayed when drama wasn't entertaining. One friend helped me fix a leaky sink. Another shared job leads. The community rebuilt itself in practical acts. I felt gratitude without debt. Trust regrew slowly, realistic and bounded. I understood now that loyalty reveals itself after collapse, not during success, and that lesson rewired how I chose people going forward, carefully, deliberately, patiently, honestly, privately, always now. Work changed me next. I transferred apartments, learned compliance frameworks, and noticed patterns executives ignored. Risk fascinated me. I documented quietly, improved controls, and saved the company money without theatrics. Promotions followed, incremental and uncelebrated. My manager trusted my judgment. I negotiated benefits, paid off debts, and stacked savings. Power felt different when it wasn't borrowed from anyone. I dressed simply. I spoke plainly. Confidence arrived without a costume. I stopped chasing validation and focused on durability. Success, I learned, compounds when nobody's watching and when motives remain clean under pressure consistently, ethically, patiently, sustainably, long-term, quietly, inwardly, steadily, grounded, always. The news traveled despite my silence. I heard she downsized and struggled. Her circle thinned. Invitations stopped. Bills mounted. She blamed timing, meant the economy, never choices. When mutuals mentioned me, she scoffed, calling my life small. I smiled privately. Small had become sufficient. I invested conservatively, cooked at home, and slept well. I dated slowly, honestly, without spectacle, healing guided decisions. I avoided revenge fantasies and chose steadiness. The absence of chaos felt luxurious. I learned joy could be quiet and still deep enough to anchor an entire future built patiently, daily, intentionally, sustainably, peacefully, privately, alone, grounded, content, secure. The divorce finalized on a rainy Tuesday. No courtroom drama, just signatures and stamps. She never met my eyes. Outside, she took a call and laughed. I walked to my car lighter. The law had closed the door she'd slammed earlier. I didn't celebrate. I went to work. That normalcy mattered. Closure, I realized, isn't fireworks. It's function. I archived documents, changed passwords, and updated beneficiaries. Life moved forward obediently. I felt grief release its grip, replaced by resolve. Some endings teach endurance more than joy, and that lesson stayed with me. Daily, quietly, firmly, permanently, grounded, steady, resilient, forward. I bought the townhouse after inspection, negotiation, patience. It wasn't flashy. It was mine. I painted walls, fixed squeaks, and learned the neighborhood rhythms. Mornings smelled like cut grass and buses. I hosted no one at first. Privacy felt protective. Financial milestones stacked. Emergency fund full. Retirement contribution steady. I slept deeply. Ownership healed something primal. I stopped fearing sudden displacement. The past lost leverage. Stability reframed masculinity for me, away from dominance and towards stewardship. Providing for myself felt radical. I finally trusted that nothing could be taken without my consent again ever anymore. Period. Moving forward, safely, secure. She reached out once, indirectly, through a cousin at a funeral in Baltimore. The message was thin. She hoped I was well. No apology followed. No accountability arrived. I declined contact. Boundaries held. That decision felt clean. I understood then that reconciliation requires truth, not nostalgia. I mourned what never existed more than what ended. Her story continued elsewhere, loud and unresolved. Mine stayed quiet and aligned. I chose discretion over dominance, peace over performance. The contrast mattered. I didn't need her recognition to validate my recovery. Silence became the proof I trusted fully, completely, inwardly, privately, enduringly, forever, true. Quick check. If you're still watching, it means this story is hitting close to home. Like this video. If you believe healing should be quiet and success doesn't need an audience, stay with me, because what happens next changes everything. Karma didn't announce itself. It accumulated. I heard about layoffs, legal trouble, and the house selling under pressure. She explained it away publicly. Privately, she unraveled. I felt nothing sharp. Empathy existed without obligation. Consequences don't require witnesses to work. My life kept compounding. I advanced again, negotiated equity, and diversified income. Money stopped being scary. Time returned. I traveled modestly, alone, learning cities. Each step confirmed that patience beats spectacle. I didn't need to be seen winning. I needed to keep winning. Quiet consistency delivered everything drama promised and failed to provide sustainably, privately, calmly, long-term, grounded, peace, always. I don't tell this story to warn or impress. I tell it to testify quietly. Betrayal can hollow you, but it can also simplify you. I lost a marriage and gained alignment. I lost a house and gained home. She never apologized. She never changed. I did, without announcements, without applause. If you're reading this from a curb, a car, or a borrowed couch, know this: rebuilding works. Slowly, honestly, privately. Choose endurance. Choose boundaries. Choose yourself when others refuse. The future doesn't need witnesses to arrive. It only needs your consent and daily action applied, consistently, patiently, bravely, always. Years passed without spectacle. My routines hardened into habits, and habits into character. I learned which silences meant peace and which meant avoidance. Mine was the first kind. I kept my circle small, trusted slowly, and spoke plainly. Work stabilized into leadership without title chasing. People came to me for answers, not noise. I listened. That mattered. I stopped scanning rooms for approval. The man I became was steadier than the man I lost. Healing wasn't dramatic. It was repetitive. I chose the same healthy decisions daily until they stopped feeling like effort. Consistency replaced chaos. That was the real victory, unnoticed but permanent. I dated a woman from Howard County briefly, thoughtful and kind. When red flags appeared, I ended it gently. No guilt, no fear of abandonment. Growth showed itself in exits as much as entries. I no longer tolerated disrespect disguised as honesty. Therapy taught me language for patterns I once normalized. I wasn't angry anymore. I was discerning. That difference changed everything. I invested more in friendships, mentoring younger coworkers quietly. Giving without saving someone felt right. I wasn't rescuing. I was sharing stability. The past became a reference, not a residence. I visited it rarely, learned from it fully, and returned home whole each time. Her name surfaced occasionally, always attached to trouble. Jobs lost. Leases broken. Relationships are brief and transactional. She spoke about betrayal as if it happened to her exclusively. Accountability never entered her vocabulary. I noticed a pattern without judgment. Some people rehearse pain to avoid change. I had no desire to correct her narrative. My silence protected my peace. I learned that moving on doesn't require forgiveness ceremonies. It requires distance and clarity. I didn't wish her harm. I simply refused involvement. Consequences unfolded on schedule. Time remained impartial. It rewarded preparation and punished entitlement with equal indifference. Watching from afar felt unnecessary. I stayed present. Professionally, opportunity arrived disguised as extra responsibility. A restructuring placed me over compliance, reviews no one wanted. I accepted calmly. The work fit my temperament. I documented risk, tightened processes, and flagged issues early. Leadership noticed. I didn't brag. Results spoke. Compensation adjusted quietly. Equity vested. I built buffers, financial, emotional, logistical. I prepared for storms without fearing them. Stability became portable. I could relocate, pivot, rest. Freedom grew. Not the flashy kind, but the reliable kind. The kind that lets you breathe during uncertainty. I realized power is optional when security is established. That understanding reshaped my ambition into something sustainable and ethical. One afternoon, I saw her again, this time outside a courthouse in Upper Marlboro. She was arguing with someone, voice sharp, posture defensive. She didn't see me. I felt no urge to intervene or announce myself. That was new. I recognized the old impulse, to be useful, to fix, and let it pass. Growth often shows up as restraint. I walked on. Later, I reflected on how different our trajectories had become. Same starting line, divergent choices. I accepted that divergence without pride or pity. Comparison lost its grip. My lane was clear. Forward movement felt sufficient. I hosted friends finally, a small dinner, no speeches. Laughter filled the townhouse. Someone commented on the calm. I smiled. Calm was intentional. I curated my environment like a garden, pruning distractions, feeding what lasted. Bills were automated. Savings grew. My health improved. I volunteered occasionally, anonymously. Giving felt better without recognition. I learned to enjoy success without announcing it. That discretion protected joy. The world is loud enough. I didn't need to contribute to the noise. My life hummed instead. When stress arrived, I met it prepared, not reactive. That difference marked maturity. I wasn't surviving anymore. I was stewarding a future with care. She attempted contact again, this time directly. A short message. Neutral tone. No apology. A request to talk. I declined politely. Closure had already happened. I understood that access is earned, not owed. That boundary felt like self-respect made visible. I didn't explain. Explanations invite debate. Peace doesn't negotiate. I archived a message and moved on. The past knocked softly. I didn't answer. That choice wasn't cruel. It was consistent. Healing doesn't require reopening wounds to prove strength. It requires protecting what was rebuilt. I honored the work by keeping the door closed. At work, a junior analyst asked how I stayed calm under pressure. I said preparation and limits. He nodded. I saw myself years ago, eager, anxious, overextended. Mentorship felt like repayment to the version of me who didn't know better. I didn't share my story fully. Lessons travel lighter, without baggage. I emphasized boundaries, documentation, and patience. He thanked me. That mattered more than titles. Influence can be quiet and still effective. I focused on building others without a spotlight. Success multiplied when shared responsibly. I realized leadership isn't visibility. It's reliability. People lean on what doesn't wobble. The foreclosure became public record. Mutuals whispered. She raged online, blaming systems, men, timing. Still no remorse. I logged off. My investments matured. I refinanced. Options expanded. I considered relocating and decided against it. Contentment argued for staying. I enjoyed my routines. Happiness wasn't a chase anymore. It was maintenance. I learned joy survives when protected from comparison. I stopped consuming content that fed envy. My world shrank and improved. That trade felt fair. I chose depth over breadth. The quiet paid dividends daily. I slept without anxiety. That alone was worth everything I lost earlier. Paragraph 30, 100 words. Looking back, I see the eviction as a brutal gift wrapped in humiliation. It forced honesty. It stripped illusions. It revealed character, hers and mine. She never changed. I did, not through vengeance, but through discipline. Not through exposure, but through consistency. I don't hate her. Hate requires attachment. I release that. I'm not triumphant. I'm aligned. The difference matters. If karma exists, it's patient. It doesn't rush or announce. It simply matches outcomes to choices over time. I chose responsibility, restraint, and repair. The results followed. Quietly, reliably, permanently. By the 4th year, my life felt unsurprising in the best way. Bills were predictable. Workdays ended on time. Weekends held rest, not recovery. I stopped bracing for chaos. That constant vigilance faded, replaced by trust in my systems and myself. I realized trauma teaches you to expect impact. Healing teaches you to walk without flinching. I noticed how my shoulders sat lower, how my breath came easier. Peace changed my posture. I no longer rehearsed conversations that would never happen. I accepted that some people exit without lessons learned. My job was not to wait for their awakening. My job was to keep living well. I upgraded nothing impulsively. When I bought a newer car, it was practical, paid half in cash. When I replaced furniture, I chose comfort over statements. These decisions reflected who I'd become. No audience, no debt-fueled pride. I traveled once a year, solo, choosing. Cities that let me disappear into routine, coffee shops, long walks, bookstores. Solitude felt restorative, not lonely. I learned how to enjoy my own company without distraction. That skill proved invaluable. You don't chase noise when silence feels complete. I stopped confusing excitement with fulfillment. Fulfillment proved quieter, sturdier, and far less fragile than the life I'd been pushed out of years before. She faded further into rumor. Someone said she moved states. Someone else said she was staying with relatives. Stories conflicted, but the pattern remained the same. Instability followed her. I didn't verify. Indifference isn't cruel, it's complete. I thought about how often she called me small, replaceable, temporary. Those words lost meaning over time. They couldn't survive evidence. My life contradicted them daily. I learned insults rot when not fed attention. I stopped carrying the weight of someone else's projection. That release freed energy for creativity and growth. I invested more in learning, took courses, sharpened skills. Expansion felt natural once fear left the room. One evening, during a power outage, I lit candles and cooked anyway. The quiet reminded me of nights in my car years earlier. The contrast struck gently. Then, darkness felt punishing. Now it felt peaceful. Perspective doesn't erase pain. It reframes it. I honor that earlier version of myself. The man who endured without knowing the outcome. Gratitude settled in, not dramatic, just steady. I realized resilience doesn't roar. It breathes. Slowly. Evenly. The lights came back. I ate dinner and went to bed. Life continued, unremarkable and safe. That safety was once unimaginable. Now it was routine. At work, another restructure came. This time I led it. I protected my team, documented everything, and ensured fairness. Leadership noticed again, but I declined a public role. I negotiated compensation quietly and kept my autonomy. Influence without exposure suited me. I remembered how visibility had once been weaponized against me in marriage. I chose discretion deliberately. Power felt better when it couldn't be taken easily. I learned how to say no without guilt. That boundary strengthened everything else. My calendar reflected my values. Time became mine again. I stopped overgiving. Balance stopped being aspirational and became operational. She reached out one final time, through an unfamiliar number. The message was brief and strained. She said life had been unfair. She asked if we could talk for closure. There was still no apology, no ownership, just need. I didn't respond. Closure doesn't come from conversations that avoid truth. I blocked the number and went for a walk. That decision didn't feel heavy. It felt resolved. I understood then that karma had already completed its work, not through my involvement, but through alignment. People who refuse accountability eventually sit alone with their choices. I didn't need to witness it. My absence was a boundary. I reflected on the eviction often, not with anger, but clarity. Being forced out stripped away denial. It showed me how love shouldn't sound or feel. That lesson shaped every relationship afterward. I no longer tolerated contempt, manipulation, or conditional affection. I trusted patterns over promises. That discernment saved me time and pain. I recognized emotional safety as non-negotiable. The cost of ignoring it was too high. I didn't need perfection from others. I needed respect. That standard simplified life. Fewer people qualified. The ones who did matter deeply. Quality replaced quantity everywhere, in relationships, goals, and expectations. On a quiet Sunday, I reviewed my finances and realized I was free. No debt. Fully funded accounts. Options open. Freedom wasn't flashy. It felt like a breathing room, like sleep without alarms, like choice without fear. I thought about how she chased a version of freedom built on other people's status. Mine came from discipline, from saying no early and often, from walking away when necessary. I understood then that success doesn't rescue you. It rewards what you repeatedly practice. I practiced restraint, patience, and responsibility. The return on those habits compounded silently, far beyond what spectacle could ever offer. If she ever realized what she lost, it arrived too late to matter, not because I became unreachable, but because I became unwilling. Growth closed the door, not bitterness. I no longer fit the story she needed me to play. I wasn't a man she could discard and retrieve. I had evolved past negotiation. That shift felt permanent. I didn't harden. I clarified. Love without respect isn't love. Partnership without accountability isn't partnership. I didn't need to win her acknowledgement to confirm that truth. My life validated it daily. Peace doesn't argue. It persists. This story ends without applause, reunions, or speeches. It ends with a man at home, cooking dinner, planning tomorrow unafraid of loss. Karma didn't crash through the door. It notched quietly, steadily, until balance returned. She never showed remorse. I never demanded it. I focused on repair, not revenge. What I built didn't need her regret to stand. I was forced out once, publicly and cruelly. I walked back into myself privately and completely. That return changed everything. If there's justice in this world, it looks like this. Quiet, earned, stable, and lasting long after noise fades. If this story reminded you that real karma is living well, subscribe and turn on notifications. This channel is for people who don't clap back. They build back. Some winds don't make noise. They make distance. If you understand the story, you belong here.